पाजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह पाजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह गुर सेवा ते भगत कमाई तब ये मानस देही पाए इस देही को सिमरै देव सो देही भज हर की सेव सो देही भज हर की सेव भजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह.
So, welcome friends to another podcast in the Holy Truth series, given as always in the name of the Supreme Lord and the Holy Masters of today, who once again wishes to impart the very highest truth of what many call God, life and creation to the sincere seekers of the world, especially for the modern age, known as Sant. Now this high truth of the ages is the noble path of Sant, path of the true saints, also known as the universal truth, true spirituality or true religion, that is so graciously gifted to seeking humanity by the great holy masters, perfect saints and noble mystics in every age, who are themselves the true representative of the Supreme Lord even today. And although little known among the masses, once encountered, a sincere truth seeker can easily recognize that this noble path or true way encompasses all true faiths and beliefs as the noble source of all, details of which can be found in our humble literature, spiritual centers, or YouTube channel, as well as in the Holy Discourse series of ISTAuk and Radhaswami Vyas. But before I begin today's session of spiritual questions and answers, I would first like to make a short introduction about who we truly are and what we represent here today. We are the International Spiritual Truth Association, or ISTAuk for short, and although now global, we originally set up in 2016 in the UK by request of the Holy Masters of the day, who derived their authority from Great Master Baba Savan Singh Ji of the holy lineage of Sant in India, the Levant and Persia. Now our given mission is simple: to tell the full truth about true spirituality or true religion from the Supreme Lord's point of view, especially for the modern age, while also correcting the confusions of the past and even that of the present about what is real truth. Yet this high teaching is not new. It is the age-old path of true spirituality, known today as the Holy Truth of Sant, which in fact has been discreetly taught throughout the ages to the most sincere seekers of the time, alongside the more familiar religious or philosophical teachings that we will all know of. Indeed, Holy Masters tell us that the simple teachings of mass religion and mass philosophy are only there to elevate the masses to the position of higher truth seeking, so that they can understand and ultimately practice true spirituality or true religion. Therefore, our mission here today is simple: to impart the very highest truth of the Supreme Lord to those who wish to know, with all the love and grace and wonder that such a gift entails. Now for those who do listen and take heed, the Holy Masters tell us that they are the most fortunate ones of humanity. As for myself, I am a sincere devotee of the highest truth of Sant, who has given his life in the service of the true Lord. As such, I do not seek any recognition, praise or reward, as I act only with the authority and by request of the Supreme Lord itself and the Holy Masters of today, to simply tell the full truth of God, life and creation for the modern age. I speak, therefore, as one who has been gifted with the true knowledge of that high truth, and as one who lives in the Supreme Lord's will. Thus I offer my humble demonstration and knowledge to all who seek the same. Now, as a friend on this noble path to God realization, I only ask that you put aside my human mortality and instead listen to and take heed of the loving message that the Supreme Lord has to offer you via this humble form, who has himself been transformed by the Holy Masters of today. Thus I represent the proof that truly anyone can rise above their given karmic role to become truly noble once again by the true Lord's grace, if only they earnestly seek it. Therefore, everything I shall share with you today is a gift of wisdom direct from the true Lord itself, for the sincere seekers of high spiritual truth. But as for myself, I'm a simple messenger, a perfect friend who is the true Lord, who the true Lord has gifted with direct knowledge of the holy truth, which I have been asked to share with you. So although I shall speak with the authority of one who has been instructed to do so by the Supreme Lord, please do not attempt to praise or glorify this humble messenger in any way. For you too are all divine beings undergoing a human experience in this lifetime, though you may not yet be aware of this. Therefore, what is given to me freely by the highest authority, I give to you the same. In return, I only ask that you open your heart and mind to the holy truth that the Supreme Lord has to offer you. Now, for those who need further assistance, they may privately contact the main speaker directly via email or video by first subscribing to our valuable information service at www.istauk.com and then requesting the direct contact details of our main speaker from our administrator. He will endeavour to answer all spiritual queries within 48 hours of receipt, but please be patient if he should take a little longer due to his busy schedule and his sheer number of inquiries. So thank you. Let's now begin with the general questions and answer session from our spiritual truth inquirers as well as the audience. So thank you.
Thank you. Right, the first set of questions are around saints and perfect living masters. First question: why are so many famous saints and some famous Sufi saints from the Punjab?
Well, they're not only from the Punjab, it's just that the ones that we get to hear about have been written in English language, have been translated are from the north of India, in which Punjab is there, as well as Amritsar and Agra. There are locations. And the largest current organisation at Dera Bias, Radha Swami Dera Bias, which has several million followers worldwide, is the one who promotes mostly Santmat to the Western world. So we get to hear about the lineage from that side. But that doesn't mean that saints are confined to the North India. In fact, there are many Persian saints, mystics, all around the Levant and all around the Persian area, which are also included in the Santmat following. And in fact, they've been included in the Guru Granth Sahib as well. So it's not restricted there. It's just that because of the way the organisation communicates and from a particular lineage, we tend to hear more about those because they're translated into English.
Thank you. Saint Namdev spent the last part of his life and died in the village of Guman. Also, Baba Jamal Singh Ji was born in the same village, Gaman, from the state of Punjab. Is that a coincidence?
Actually, if you want to know the truth about it, they are related. And
How?
the Baba Jamal Singh was in fact formerly Sant Namdev, the famous saint who said that he ferries the seekers across the ocean and I'm the ferryman. So they are actually the same. So they happen to be born there by coincidence, not because that place is significant, but the same person has been born again. Similar to what happened with Tulsi Das and Tulsi Sahib, in which the great Gatra Ramayana was written, which wasn't accepted in his early form when as Tulsi Das, but 2 centuries later as Tulsi Sahib was reintroduced and it was accepted publicly. So sometimes masters will incarnate more than once in a particular region to get a particular message across to a particular people. It's not that that place is significant per se, because there have been many locations that holy masters have been born, even in South India, which there are so many masters there, and in Bengal, that we don't know much about, because not much literature was written, but they were masters of the highest order. And anyone who contacts within will see there's been thousands of masters have come and gone since antiquity, even since the time of the dinosaurs. When dinosaurs were here, no humans on Earth, there were masters in the dinosaur form. You know, dinosaurs ran for several 100 million years. And there were some very advanced dinosaurs even. And although they did not look human and did not communicate, there were some advanced dinosaurs who would communicate in their own way. And there were masters and disciples even in the reptilian form. Going back even further to the fishes of the sea, there have been masters there, albeit they were from the Brahmandi level, not from the higher level. That privilege is only afforded to human beings. But even the fish in the sea, there was a section of them who had masters and so on in their own way. It's difficult for us to understand communication in another animal form. But just as we can communicate and make ourselves understood, so it happened in those parts. So actually masters go back, in fact the longest period of masters was in the oceans.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry.
So there was no humans during the time of dinosaurs?
No, not anatomically modern humans.
What do you mean by that?
There were other beings here. We had visitors. This planet is in a sector of the universe which has other planetary systems with life forms. We call them aliens, let's say. But there's been visitations here that came and went. And they left some of their remains here, some skeletal remains of giants and others, unusual skulls, elongated skulls and so on. So there have been visitors here. But when we talk about our own species, anatomically modern humans, then we look back 287,000 years, the event when humans surfaced here. So the dinosaurs are going back 65 million years beyond. So it's a long gap.
So when you say reptilians, do you mean extraterrestrial reptilians?
No, they're very much here. But there have been extraterrestrials, another topic for another day, visiting here on an ongoing basis. And yes, we're not alone in this universe, let's say. Yeah.
The dinosaur timeline, does that fit into where does that fit in terms of like the golden age, Satgurus, and what age does it fit into?
The ages still appeared even then. The ages have always appeared on Earth since the Earth itself created. And the fact that, say, other than anatomically modern humans experience that spiritual elevation, but you have to understand the yugas only apply to Brahman. They're not connected with this high spirituality of Santmat. This is beyond the physical. Santmat is beyond the physical, beyond the level of the mind and Maya. It's a level of the soul. And so the perfect masters who come from that level started when humans appeared on Earth, anatomically modern humans. Before then, there were masters from Brahman and below who came here and gave teaching. Not necessarily alien, yeah? Just among the species itself.
This last question, so extraterrestrials are responsible for us being here?
Well, it's another topic, but we were star-seeded anatomically. Anatomically, modern humans were star-seeded from another planetary system some light years away. Yes, we did originate here by the evolutionary process, which is why evolutionists are really struggling to find the missing link between anatomically modern humans and hominids, which are the ape-like humans. There doesn't seem to be that bridged gap. There's a gap there, and that's because we are unlike any other species here, even the apes. And although some of our gene pool, because all animals were seeded here from another world, not here, this planet is only 4.5 billion years old. There's simply not enough time in that 4.5 billion years to get molecules to coalesce into a form that forms amino acids, and then those amino acids to form chains of proteins, and so on. In fact, many scientists have calculated it would take many, like tens of billions of years for life to emerge in its current form, according to the evolutionary blueprint. So life cannot have originated here, but has come from here. And we know there's numerous comets and bombardments that brought frozen DNA, frozen life here. Then those ones who were suitable for this climate evolved. And humans came by a slightly different route. But that's a subject for another day, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay.
There are so many spiritual teachers in the world today of all levels that it is very confusing for those seeking the high truth. My question is, how can we recognize a true holy master from the many others who claim the same?
This has been a problem throughout history, actually. When holy masters appear among the masses, certainly among spiritual teachers, they seem very ordinary to us initially. Unless we have personal communication with them, holy masters are masters of disguise. They purposefully hide behind ordinariness to the masses because they're here only for the marked ones, the ones on their list that has been assigned to them by the Supreme Lord, Anami Purush. So there's a whole process by which masters come here and they hide among the public. But in the modern day, I do get a lot of inquiries about this, in fact, a lot of emails, because there are a lot of people claiming to be spiritual perfect masters, when there's only 3 currently in the world. And there are many other masters who are not given permission to initiate and so on, but they always remain discreet. They never announce who they are. They may give satsangs, they may do question answers, but they never reveal their full truth because they haven't got the authority to bring people onto the path until sometime in the future when that authority is given to them. So you have the perfect saints, of which there are 3 currently. Then you have the holy masters, who number about 7 in the world, and they have reached the 5th, but they're not initiating, they're not, and it's similarly to the perfect masters, they never say they're a master. They just give teachings and let the people decide. Because ultimately it's the pull within, the pull of truth and love, that must pull you to a particular individual. And if you like what they're saying and you feel connected with them, you go there. Doesn't matter who they are. In time, you will find a level that you can attain, and then maybe you meet somebody else and they pull you. In this journey, it's never time wasted. As Hazur Maharaji, Charan Singh Ji used to say, it's never time wasted on this path. And as long as you're seeking, don't worry where you're going. But because I have been asked these questions so many times by email, I have actually prepared a section from the book which answers this question, which I'm going to read out. Be patient a little bit. I'm going to read out this transcript from the book that explain a little bit more about this point, because it's important that people understand, for those who are truly seeking, the signs of a true holy master or a master in the waiting, from those others who teach other things, because there's a lot of confusion out there. So I'll read this. So I'm going to read this from, this is a book, from the book, I'm going to quote. So it says, I would first like to answer in a little more depth a query I get asked almost consistently concerning the recognition of a true Holy Master or PLM, from that of so many others who claim the same. There are certainly many spiritual teachers of all levels currently in the world, whom one may choose to follow. But true Holy Masters or PLMs are very rare indeed. So for those who wish to know a sure way of recognizing such a one, I will quote a reply from an enlightened master known as the Saint with no name, who chooses to remain discreet and withdrawn for now. He has written extensively on many high-level Sant spiritual topics worthy of note for true seekers, available from ISTAuk or ISTAworld. Today, however, I will quote this text regarding the true role and recognition of a perfect Holy Master, so here it is. In truth, it is very difficult for an ordinary human being to fully recognize a true Holy Master living in this world, simply because they may often appear disguised as ordinary individuals, not to attract the insincere masses, while others, though they may be great in their own way, or just be misguided even, simply teach spirituality, have become mindfully enlightened, as opposed to spiritually enlightened, to some extent, or may even claim mastership, and thus initiate publicly, but without true authority. Thus they cannot save anyone nor themselves, and if misguided, await a certain fate. Therefore, as a rule set in the past and still relevant today, there are 7 key points to consider when approaching the subject from a human perspective. But apart from these, a decisive fact to note is simply this: were they officially given the authority by a current Holy Master, perfect saint or noble mystic, by way of public announcement or official document, etc., which firmly settles the matter. Now, although this is not always the case, its deed is conclusive. However, if not the case, then today, as in the past, the 7 determining factors known to history as the 7 holy requirements can be trusted and used by true spiritual seekers. First of these is the manner in which the proposed Holy Master currently lives their life, meaning at the time of the claim. For example, do they follow the strict moral code of right conduct, right speech, and right knowledge, such as honestly earning their own living without being a burden to others, cheerfully fulfilling their given duties as a simple householder, not charging for their spiritual services or salvation, teaching from their own experience about the sacred method of inner spiritual inquiry, rather than parroting mere book knowledge, while also demonstrating a true competence in high spiritual truth, without ritual or ceremony, thus assuring others not to believe in mere blind faith. Now it must be explained that when considering this first key point, the Master's past should not come into account, since many colourful historic figures became enlightened after a dodgy or tragic past, through the Lord's glancing transformation, where indeed, prior to their enlightenment, they fulfilled the Lord's karmic plan for them, whatever that may have been, just to show that almost anyone can change and succeed if they truly yearn for high true salvation above all else, even if they were considered to be a villain prior to that. Only certain past actions are counted as eliminating factors, since they are too grave to be overcome in one lifetime. These include all acts of wanton violence, murder or rape, the relish of inciting hate or of willfully, not accidentally, harming others, the willful obstruction of holy masters or peaceful spiritual teachers, the willful obstruction of true humanitarians from helping others or the environment, the willful delight in cheating others from their hard-earned funds, home, livelihood or subsistence, etc., Indeed, these acts of willful or grievous harm upon society or the environment cannot be overcome so easily. However, it must be explained that since everything is in the hands of the Supreme Lord, there is no judgment on the Lord's part. But certainly, the Lord does not wish to distress true seekers by presenting to them a hardcore villain just described as a successor, unless there is a very, very good reason to do so. Nevertheless, this is just one factor to consider, as all 7 must be met in order to be sure of the matter. The second key point to note is the classic one of prophecy. This means that a true Holy Master has the innate ability to foresee things that are yet to come, or to know things that ordinary individuals would not be able to know. If this is not the case, then the claimant cannot be all-knowing. The third important point is that of balance, forgiveness and compassion. If the proposed Holy Master loses their balance when faced with difficulties, accusations or threats, etc., then such a one cannot be of the highest order. Indeed, if they are subject to fear, mood swings, anger, judgment, enticements, gluttony, greed, favoritism or pride, etc., then such a one has not risen above the level of base emotions, and so still operates in the karmic world, no matter what their excuse. Fourthly, do they project feelings of genuine love, compassion and kindness to all who come before them, and to the general public at large, even to non-believers or critics, without pretense? If so, then such a one is at least truly enlightened beyond the karmic realms. Fifthly, do they set themselves up or claim to be a holy master, perfect saint or noble mystic, and thus promote themselves as such by their own will, or the will of others, meaning their followers, due to their followers' need to have such a figure, and thus put them on a pedestal above the rest, whereby the assumed holy master relishes that position without resistance? Then they cannot be anything more than a mere spiritual teacher, or a little advanced but incomplete spiritual practitioner. No true holy master, perfect saint or noble mystic ever takes on such a heavy load lightly, because of the serious consequences of doing so to their soul and to that of their followers, and certainly do not promote themselves as such publicly by making out to be something more than they truly are. Now, sixthly, are they able to answer any question brought before them with confidence, depth of knowledge and surety? Or do they stumble, fob off inquiries with waffle, or show no personal knowledge of the matter other than that of common knowledge? And finally, do they exhibit a true, unambiguous and consistent knowledge of all the realms up to the 5th and perhaps beyond, without merely parroting what others have said, or without making up stories from what they may believe to be true, but which does not stand up to the test of real scrutiny, nor compares to the true holy masters, past or present, actual testimony? Now, if this test of 7 holy requirements is not all passed, then they cannot be a true holy master, perfect saint, or a noble mystic, but can, of course, be a respected spiritual teacher, saintly aspirant or philosopher, etc. In fact, when using this historic method of human-level testing, one can more clearly determine who is and who is not a true holy master, perfect saint or noble mystic of their age. Indeed, through this testing, one will see that such a holy one is a very rare occurrence in the world, while other spiritual speakers or leaders and teachers are relatively abundant. Yet I do recognize the need that some people have to follow someone they like as a person, who also speaks with some knowledge of spiritual matters and is in a position to present themselves to the public at large as some sort of saviour. but this does not qualify them as a holy master, etc. For a real truth seeker, not led by emotions, but by deep intuition, they will always apply the test just mentioned of 7 holy requirements, to be sure if they're unsure, even if their heartstrings pull them one way or another, since those emotions are mere karmic, mind-level connections, and not anything more. In reality, however, it must be reminded here that even if the proposed holy master, etc., fails the test, it doesn't mean that they are unhelpful, a bad person, or unknowingly misleading others. It just means that they cannot actually save, meaning wholly initiate, baptize, spiritually awaken to the 5th level anyone, only teach spiritual matters, and perhaps ceremoniously collect disciples who are karmically drawn to them. Furthermore, there do exist holy masters in the waiting, who are masters themselves, meaning have attained at least the 3rd to the 5th realm level of creation, with full knowledge thereof, but who are not given authority to save others yet, other than to help them on their spiritual journey, till some later date when things may change. Such an honest, discreet master in waiting, however, may still pass the 7 holy requirements test, or at least 6 of them, as they may still be undergoing their own evolutionary journey, and not necessarily be at the 5th level or above of creation, but would never put themselves forward as a holy master, etc., till absolute authority is given to them by the Supreme Lord or their own holy master, etc. And even then, would discreetly do so with truly sincere truth seekers worldwide, who would recognize them, even if not drawn to them, despite any past karmic history or worldly status associated with them. It must be further explained that a spiritual master, saint or mystic, etc., can be anything from 3rd level to 5th level of spiritual attainment, with true holy masters, perfect saints, and noble mystics being of the highest order. End quote. Sorry, it's a long reply, but hopefully it will finally address this issue that is constantly questioned among Sanghas today and among sincere seekers to understand who is and who is not one of the highest order. Though it doesn't exclude them from following somebody else. You know, in school, in schools, we have the nursery level, then we have lower school, higher school, then upper school, then university, then professor. All these levels are necessary for a student to progress so they can understand the professor. If you introduce a professor to the nursery, they'll all be lost. It's not that he's any less to them, but they don't recognize who he is. So he has to dumb down to ABC 1, 2, 3 level. It doesn't mean that's all he knows. It's just that he's not given permission to act as professor with them because of who they are.
Thank you. I've got a question though. Look, it might be an unfair question based on what you just said, but you mentioned about all these 7 key things and they have to ideally tick all them boxes. You mentioned something about like a dodgy past, in terms of maybe some things that might have been scandalous or what have you.
Yes.
But what I'm aware of, Babaji and Ishwar Puriji, they've had a bit of dodginess while they've been perfectly being masters.
Yes.
So someone could have looked up to them thinking, yeah, they're the ones. But somehow they seem to not tick that box of dodginess. If you want to call it that.
You have to understand that
scandals
or claims made which are not true, not based on truth, but a misunderstanding, can occur any time. It doesn't mean that the masters are not true. I can personally confirm.
But someone who's seeking, though, may look at that and think, I'm not sure if they're not.
Well, I have to say that they have to look into the matter for themselves more closely. Because, yes, all holy masters are tainted with scandal. Babaji, no exception. He's my master. So is Ishwarji. And so is even Supreme Master. They have all accepted me so that I can put their case forward in a neutral way without being part of an organization, therefore considered to be affiliated in any way. As an individual, telling the truth That is all I do. And these three have scandal associated with them. But there is no truth in it. What we're talking about is sometimes in the past, some saints have a colourful past, and they become enlightened. And they use their colourful past to their advantage, because then they say, well, look what I was. And by the Lord's grace alone I was saved, not by my effort. Because the egotists out there will always put themselves saying, I am better than you, because I have led a squeaky clean karmic life. You have been a villain, and now you claim enlightenment. This is a real interesting point, and it has been a historic point, where some masters, most of them in fact, have had some difficulties in the past, but they were, by the glance of the true Lord, enlightened. The point of this being that no one is better than anyone else. It is the true Lord who decides the fate of individuals, not us as characters in the play. We are all Atma. We are all perfect. In fact, all of us are masters in the making. We're all perfect. There's no difference between any soul. The difference to human beings is the character we're playing. Let's say, like Charan Singh Ji used to famously talk about the villain. Even a villain can be enlightened. You know, let's say a character is being given the role of a villain. So he has to play the part of a villain. And another one has to play the part of the goody or the victim or the hero. From the Lord's point of view, there's no difference. They're both playing their part well. But let's say the villain says, although I'm given the role of a villain, I'm compelled to act because of karma. I have no choice. There's no such thing as free will, and that's a subject for another time. They have only two bad choices to make. Bad and worse. So let's say they choose bad, right, which is the option they have. So the world looks upon them as a villain. But in their heart, they protest most strongly. Why am I compelled to do this? Why am I in this position? Why have I been given this role? So their attitude is one of nobility, but their conduct is one of villainy. The Lord recognizes their attitude, because at the end of the day, it's not what you do. That script has been written for you. It's your attitude to everything. Intention. Intention in karma is what drives karma, not action. Karma is misunderstood. It's been translated in literature as action, because that's a simplistic way of looking at it. But we can prove that actions are not all equal. For example, I often give the example that if a man is driving in his car and he sees an enemy, a neighbor who he hates, and he drives into him and knocks him over and kills the man, then he will be called a murderer by even human society. But let's say the same man is now driving along and bends down to pick something up he's dropped and accidentally kills a man. Then they say this is accidental death. Totally different. But in both cases, a man has died. If you look at the karma, a man drove recklessly into another individual and killed. That's the basis of it. However, the finer details are intention. Even humans, with their poor limited knowledge, recognize intention as the primary factor in any case. Did that person intend to do harm? So retribution is met out accordingly. Karma is exactly the same. In fact, karma is more hot in this detail, because in karma, intention is the only driving force, not action. No one accounts for your actions in the judgment. They account for the intention behind it. That's why Jesus famously said, if he lusts after a man or woman who is not his wife or his relation, then he has committed sin with her already, even he has not the opportunity to fulfill it. So therefore, karma thoughts are very important, because if you think with a strong intention to commit a crime or to hate somebody or to judge, which is the biggest thing in the world we have today, in this current era, judgment is the main culprit behind most people's undoing. Let's say you judge another, meaning you're judging the Lord's creation. Then immediately, even if you do not act upon it, you want to cause them harm, but you never had an opportunity, that is still recorded against you as if you had committed the crime. Let's say you were in a moment of uncontrolled rage but felt sorry for yourself and just hit somebody accidentally and they fell down the stairs and broke their skull. Then that karma is very light in comparison to the intention. Karma is a complicated thing, which is what Krishna said to Uddhava when Uddhava asked him this very question. And then Krishna famously said, look at that ant. that lowly ant. This was once Brahma himself, the Lord of creation, the creator. Now he's an ant. So, karma, the law of karma, or the law of cause and effect, is a very complicated thing for ordinary humans to understand. It becomes clear when you reach Par Brahma beyond. When you look at the source of the karma and how it works, then you realize it is all a play. There's no reality to anything that's going on here. Not even the physical forms of the master are real. That's why masters always say, Guru is Shabad, Shabad is Guru. Because the real form of the master is the Shabad. And if you want to test this, you meditate within, go within, and seek the true form of your master. Even the outside master, don't believe him necessarily. Listen to him. But unless you see for yourself, you can never be 100% sure. You could be pulled by intuition initially that leads you to a following, but doesn't mean you're sure. Only those who have seen know. You become a knower. So the spiritual part of Sant is about becoming a knower, where you see for yourself the truth of everything, who is who and what is what. And when you do, you judge no one. So this is an important point.
Thank you. Talking of scandal, next question. Why do masters and saints often get surrounded by scandal? Is it simply for them to demonstrate they will not lose their balance despite their karma?
Actually, that's largely the truth. You see, when a saint is born into the world as a mortal, as a human being, he's born in the same way. He's not miraculously born. He's born in the same way. Has very normal physical body, normal needs, has to eat, sleep, and so on, wash, just like everybody else. He's born with a karmic body that's been assigned to him for that particular role. Although masters don't, or saints don't have any karma of their own, they have to inherit one. They have to borrow in order to exist in this world. So whatever that body has to go through, that saint has to go through. So sometimes people say, well, why, if this one is so great and a holy master, why are they sick? Why are they ill? Why do they get cancer, diabetes, and so on? Because they believe that the physical form sitting before them is the master. No, it's a vehicle. It's a vehicle the master uses to convey the teaching. If you cannot pass the simple test of common sense, understanding, then it's not for you. Move on, somewhere else. Masters never force you to follow them. And they never try to set themselves up as miraculous beings. They live very ordinarily. So with this ordinariness, sometimes there are people who are designed to be antagonists. So you have the hero, and let's say you have this drama in this film. You have the villain as well. Otherwise, what's the hero going to do? If there's no villain to fend off, then there's no drama. This world was created out of both pain and pleasure, drama. So when you have masters coming here, you'll have their antagonists. And the antagonists will come to bring them down. And their role then is to do in various ways. Whether they kill them, like they tried to do with Jesus and the Buddha. Or they'll go milder to create scandal and something against them. Because that is their role. You know, Jesus, when he was going to be betrayed, he of course knew. He had an arrangement with Judas that he was going to be betrayed. And that's why he said at the Last Supper, he said to Judas, go and do what must be done. He gave him permission to betray him, yet Judas is portrayed as a villain. So this role between master and the society is a complicated one. It imitates natural life, because if masters were holier than thou in the sense that they had a perfect life in every way, perfectly formed body, perfect in everything, who would follow them? Yes?
Does Carl have anything to do with antagonizing masters?
Yes, because this is his creation. When masters come into this creation, they play by Carl's rules, happily. Carl is a negative power that created the imperfect creation, and therefore all the dramas belong to Carl. He also participates in these dramas through individual minds, whereas the souls are mere spectators. So when souls come into this realm, from beyond the mind, from beyond the level of Carl, they adopt the mind tool, the particular character they're playing, which that mind is part of Carl, the negative power, who does his job well. His job is to play the antagonist, you see? So now you have the hero and the villain. And the game is fun, because this is a game between who will win. Will the negative or evil one win, or will the positive or hero one win? And this is the gameplay we are all playing on a personal level. We all have two sides to us, the evil and the good. We all have a mind, let's say the evil, and we all have a soul, the good. Now the interplay between those two is the drama that we're experiencing in separation from the Lord in Satgurus. Now overcoming this drama, in other words, realizing the truth, is what Sant teaches. They say, look, you can't beat the system. Masters come here to prove you cannot beat the system. For example, Babaji suffered with cancer. He went through the whole rigmarole. Yes, he could have just snapped his fingers and made it disappear. But what would that show to the audience? They would show that they are hopeless before him, because they cannot do that. So no, he has to live through it without losing his balance. Similarly, when all the scandal was raised against him, did he raise any objection? No. He kept quiet, let it pass. Because he knows that this scandal is associated with the physical form of the master, the body. Even so, it came from quite close to him, his own family. But he let it pass. It did not affect him. He carried on doing his seva. Now that is the mark of a master. One who could rise above all these scandals and limitations and still carry on serving the Sangha to their last breath. But these are living examples for us. So when we then complain and stand before a master and protest, look, our life is like this, mother is dying with this, son is this, daughter run away. Master says, well, look at my family, look at my situation. He could say, but often he doesn't, because he tries to, because of the way the Sangha are, they're so limited in their comprehension. The master has to put on a front, let's say, and says, no, you do this spiritually, you do that, and so on. Really live in the Lord's will, let it pass. Summer comes, winter has to come, but the winter won't last forever. Not every day is a sunny day. So when the cloud comes, let it pass. Keep your head down. That's it. Don't worry. Because you're not the character you're playing. You are an imposter. The character is an imposter that's letting you do all these things. If you go within and you connect with the true form within, you will understand that the real form of you has projected this, and that this drama is all your own. Who are you going to point a finger at? It's all you. You're the only one. You create the drama. And like a director in the play who collects all the characters to play the play most beautifully, you have to have the hero, the villain, and all the people in between to make a story. We chose to come here as souls into this creation, pick up a character and play that part. What does it matter what part the character is playing? It's not real. It's like a show on the television or the film. Those actors playing their part never get convinced that their part is real. They remember they have a family back home. They have friends and things real. They never forget that, but they play their part so well that we are convinced that that person that plays the hero and that one is the villain. Yes.
So why is it that things that seemingly don't concern me, like happening across the other side of the world, part of my play?
Yes, because anything within your sphere of the five senses is part of your drama. But there are much more things that you're not aware of. You're not aware of some lonely child starving in Africa, a particular individual. You don't know everybody. There are 7.5 billion people here, but there is a certain amount of people that you have a karmic association with, including the objects of the world. Like you will not visit all countries. You will only visit certain countries. Even that is in your karma. So you have a collective karma with groups. That's another thing. When you come here, you don't come on your own. You come here in millions and trillions, together, as a family. When I say family, I mean not in the human sense. I'm talking about as part of the players of the play. Imagine over 10 million births you've had before you get to the human form. How many parts you've played, how many individuals you're associated with. They're all part of the play that you come with. Even a passerby who bumps you in the street. That's not coincidence. It's part of the play, and your relationship with him is just that. In order for the play to be played most beautifully, all parts have to be played convincingly. whether you're playing the part of a passerby or a family member or a lover even, all have to be played. But then, when the karma finishes, all fly their separate ways.
I've heard somewhere that when you're say if you were in a stadium and you're watching a show, let's say, or a football match, those sitting in the distance are not actually real characters. They're just there to play. If you don't interact with them, do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, but actually no one is a real character. Everyone is illusion. It's only because your senses are looking at it and responding to an image that you've created from within you. The proof of this is, if you close your eyes, where do these people go? Just by physically closing a physical part, they suddenly disappear. Everything disappears. Everything. Therefore, everything you see is projected from within you. It's not outside and you're seeing it, how the scientists think. No. You are seeing the world uniquely. From your perspective, no two people see the same thing. Each soul was created from an individual point of view, so that the Lord can witness His creation, His glory from every possible angle. If you have infinite forms of creation and you have infinite souls to view from infinite angles, how much more is the glory of your manifestation? Otherwise, why creation? There's no need for creation. So in order to have a creation, you have to have somebody to admire the creation. So the Lord separated Himself from Himself into countless souls, so He could see the creation from every possible angle. But when all is done, it's all packed up. And like Charan Singh Ji used to say, the puppets are packed up and put in the case and taken away, and the show is over. Meaning pralaya, the dissolution. Yeah? So none of this is real. It looks real because you're engaged in it. For example, I'm now looking forward at you. What's behind me is not real for me, but it's real for you because you're looking at it. Now, do I decide to believe you, or do I believe what I'm seeing?
But you're not actually, like, according to what you're saying, you're not actually looking at anything, are you? It's been projected.
Yes.
So your eyes are actually windows.
Yes.
Rather than you're seeing it around you, and it's being projected in, projected out.
Yes.
That's why science can't explain how your eyes work.
Well, they can mechanistically explain it,
Yeah,
but not the act of seeing.
Yeah.
Because seeing requires comprehension. Now, the seat of the mind of the soul, or the source of your life force, is at the discreetly, third eye. How does this manifest in the body? It first descends to the head and the eyes, the nose, the senses are awakened. The first thing for you to understand this world and recognize it is your senses have to become alive. We can see that they don't work without life when we see a dead body. It's still got ears, eyes and everything, but why isn't it recognizing the world? Its senses are physically there, but they're not working. What's missing? Missing is the life force. Where does that life come? That life must come other dimensionally, because it clearly is not in that body. And there are many examples of even near-death experiences, which I won't go into, where people have left their body and seen from above. So everything we see outside is a projection from within us. So when we complain about something, we're actually complaining to ourselves. That's why Babaji famously says, he said, why are you complaining to me? He said, why are you complaining to the Lord? He says, you're the one, it's your karma. You brought this with you. Now just go through it smilingly.
Just one last thing. When science say, because they're aware that the image is projected to the back of your brain.
Yes.
Why is it upside down?
No, it's just because the way lenses work, like a mirror is back to front. It's just a physics. That's to do with physics. You could ask a physicist about the reversal of an image conducted through a lens, because the lines converge in opposite directions, so you get a reversal of the image. It's just pure physics to do with lenses. Nothing mysterious about that. But what's interesting is the brain converts it the right way up. That's interesting. And what does that? See, the life within us converts that image from a dead sensory image, which a lens can conduct, even a mechanical lens you can put there. But interpretation requires intelligence. Yeah, it requires consciousness, awareness. And it's consciousness or life force that allows us to make use of the senses and make an interpretation. And how is this consciousness, how does it make an interpretation? Through something called samskaras. The impressions we bring upon us create our personalities, our likes and dislikes, and so we see the world through this. So our consciousness, our individual consciousness that comes with us, determines how we see the world. So that's the mechanism by which it happens. So Sant teaches that we have to withdraw the attention. They don't say focus the attention within, they say withdraw the attention within, because we're projecting it outside. Withdraw the attention within and go home, go and see higher truths of ourselves. Self-realization before God realization, you see. And to aid this, when you go within, for those who have a perfect living master, they'll see the master manifest in them. And that's when you know for sure this one is real. This master is there for me, because they've greeted you within. And the way they greet you within is completely different to outside. You see, outside, master has to play a certain part. He has to be a community leader, he has to be a family man, he has to be strict with the Sangha. So many people complain to me and say, oh, you know, Babaji is very harsh looking and very this and that, and I don't feel kinship with him, whereas Jalan Singh Ji was all smiley and happily. I said, I don't see it the same way. I see them all playing the part of the physical. But look deeper, use your intuition rather than your mind. It's the mind that messes things up. It looks at an individual, makes a judgment. Mind loves judgments, you see, because it creates stories for itself then. Otherwise it's boring for the mind, there's no judgment, because then there's no consequence. But the soul, however, intuition of the soul, recognizes that despite the sternness of this exterior being, there's a great love and compassion there, which sometimes shows through when there's a smile and so on. So, you know, it's the only way to really know this for sure is to do the spiritual practice taught in Sant. Because you can intellectualize all of this, I can explain it to you in many ways, but unless it becomes your own experience, you'll always have questions and doubts about it. So I will say, okay, once you understand the intellectual side of it, put that away, and let's do the spiritual practice. Make it your own. Be the experiencer. Then nobody will be able to throw you off track. Nobody able to say to you, no, this one is not real, because you know for sure who that one is. Okay, so that's it.
Thank you. Wow. Supreme Master Ching Hai often states in her satsangs and in her book, Immediate Enlightenment, that angels are there to serve us as humans. However, you have stated in a recent satsang that they do not really help us or even interact with us directly. What is the actual truth of this, and what does Supreme Master Ching Hai actually mean when she makes this claim?
You have to understand that depending on who the audience is before you, masters often say different things, simply because the level of understanding of the audience may be different to another audience. Now, there's a book being written which is endorsed by Babaji and Ishwar Puriji called Masters Are Honest Liars. And that's an interesting title for a book. And the reason for this is that according to the people, the masters give a teaching. And as those people progress, the teaching seems to change. That's why you hear there's a lot of contradiction sometimes in spirituality, in religion, in Sant even. Because let's say Babaji will say one thing to one person on a topic and then a completely different answer to a different individual. Which one is true? You know, in fact, both are true because they're applicable to that individual. So the problem is that when you're a generalist looking at specificness, there's a problem. You cannot apply generalities, the concept of generality, to specificness. So therefore, sometimes masters will say things which generally are not strictly true, but help that individual to connect in a way that they can understand emotionally first. Because remember, the master has to appeal to their emotions, then to their intellect, then to their spiritual self. So there's a process involved in this. So the truth is, the absolute truth is no. You are physical here, the angels are in the astral realm. What connection would you have with them? The only way you could possibly connect with them is if you meditated and reach the astral realm. Then yes, you can interact with them. Neither can they come here and interact with you. But Westerners who have a little bit of knowledge, a little slice of the pie of spiritual knowledge, take concepts from the East and glamorize them. Again, in the aid to help people feel better. Now, if by saying there is an angel, guardian angel looking after you, and you feel a lot much better, you feel like you can do your duties more and well, what's wrong with it? Just because it's not true. What's wrong with it? It's helping. But then let's say you become a spiritual inquirer, you advance a little, and then you realize that's not the case. But you have something new to replace it. See, masters try not to go against the nature of the peoples they're teaching, because if they're true alienated from them, the people won't be able to relate to them, will not accept any of their teachings. So sometimes master has to tell an honest lie. Another example I can give you is this. You know when you have a young child, and the child says, "How was I born?" Child may be 5 or 6. Now you simply say, "Well, you know, we went to the hospital and got you." That's partly true, but not the whole truth. Why do you not tell the child the full truth? Because you know the individual you're dealing with. It would be harmful to tell the whole truth. In fact, Babaji once said to a questioner, he said, if I told you everything, you would be so confused and disorientated, you would leave the path. And then obviously the question was thinking, what is so terrible that you could tell us? Now, we here have been given permission to tell the truth, what we call Satmat 3.0, because Babaji introduced Satmat 2.0, and people are complaining about that. So in order to tell the truth in the modern age, when people are much more intellectually inquiring, much more able to share knowledge, then we have been set up in order to tell the whole truth. To those people marked to know, who want to know the whole truth and advance spiritually.
So is it an advanced version of the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
This is more wholly the truth. Even then, I'm having to be careful how much I can say. Because the feeble mind is such that even suggesting that we are the makers of our own destiny and that there's no one harming us, some people get very upset by that and confused.
But you have to make that judgment call whether you feel it's right to impart that information on whoever you're talking
It's the Lord's grace. The Lord acts solely. Yes.
So what would you mean then?
With what?
When he said, if I told you the whole truth?
I'm explaining to you some of it. You see, you have to understand the Indian Sangat.
Yeah.
They come from a certain type of background, certain belief systems, and most of them are not highly intellectual, highly educated. Babaji appeals to them through their culture. And culturally, the books have been written in a certain way, which is another story, because Babaji said, burn all the books. And there's a very good reason for that. Because I, even in the beginning, fell for the books, and I had a problem, because my own experiences were contrary to what was reading in the books. Until I was told by Master, forget the books, your experience is real. The books are just a guide, they're a story, a fantasy to get you to that point.
Doesn't depend on how elevated you are.
Yes.
Because you obviously may be more, so the books
Well,
don't
I'm
mean
somewhere,
much.
let's say.
Yes.
Yeah. So, information is a guide. We have an information guide. And information takes us to a certain point, but it doesn't give us the experience. So it's really important that we treat the information guide for what it is. And all the Santmat books are the same. They introduce us to a concept, but not necessarily 100% truthfully. Yeah. So Babaji is rocking the boat a little bit with his Sangha, because they come from a very traditional background. Still many Charan Singh Ji disciples there. 1 or 2 even from Jagat Singh Ji and so on, and 1 from a great master. So, you have to understand that the master himself is limited. He has to play the game well in order to keep the Sangha together. Otherwise there'll be confusion within the Sangha. Because imagine you have all the different abilities. I mean, Babaji has lowered the bar considerably for those entering Satmat now. Now almost anyone who simply inquires about it can enter. In the past, it wasn't so easy. And certainly going back 100 years or so, you had to be a novice for 7 years, serving the master, running around before you were considered for initiation. You were tested. Yes.
The masters like Babaji being guided by inner masters as to what to do?
All masters depend upon their own master. Like Babaji, is a great lover of his beloved master Charan Singh Ji. There's no question about it. He's doing his master's bidding.
So Mark Johnson would say to Babaji, don't say this, don't do that.
You could say like that, but then where's the difference between them now? Yeah? They're one and the same. But the instruction given from a worldly point of view was that he should serve the Sangat as Charan Singh Ji did. And he does his best in his own way. He has his own unique style and approach for the modern age. So he tries to be a more modern master than, say, Hazur Maharaji was. But doesn't make them any better or worse than each other. They just had a different style, a different delivery. You know, and what's important is the message they tell you is to go within. All the teachings and all the things are just examples. They're all stories, fairy tales. It's not a fairy tale when you see it for yourself. Otherwise it's a fairy tale. All the Sant books are fairy tales. The master's speeches are all fairy tales. Because that's all they are to you. A marvel of existence. But why not go there? The difference is they're not empty stories. If I read to you a work of fiction, that's it. Finished. Book closed. Story ending. Master's work of fiction is different. Because in that fiction, there's a little hole, a little way of accessing the truth of it all. And that's the secret. So holy masters don't come to preach or teach anything. They come to save souls. However, because the way humans are with the mind, intellect and the emotions, they want questions answered. So they ask. Really, the master should just say one thing. Meditate and go within. Meditate and go. It should be his only reply. In fact, he should have it in an endless recording. Because that will give you everything you want to know. But of course, master has to play the part. He's going to say, no, he takes each case seriously. They come and stand before him, ask a question. So he has to say this and that according to them. And they feel satisfaction of the mind. Nothing to do with the soul. The soul doesn't have any questions. It's the mind that asks all the questions. And master is not there for the mind. He doesn't care what character you're playing. If master is judged, there would be no Sangat. No one is worthy of perfectness in this world. We're all here because we're imperfect. Master's here to create perfection from imperfection. Yeah? So, this is why masters do not judge. We are the one who engage in all these judgments. Decide this one is right, this one is wrong, this is good, this is bad. This is our perspective. If we live by this, then so shall we be judged. As Jesus said, as ye judge, so shall we be judged. We spend all our time judging the creation, questioning everything. Why not just go in and see for yourself? If you spend all that time questioning, going within, you'll surely get an answer. And no one can destroy that answer. Once seen, it cannot be unseen. So go within, and even a glimpse of the divine is in fact enough to change you completely. So what we're trying to do here, for example, is to give a practical side to Sant. Move away from the theoretical and then get people to know the secret of how to see this for themselves. Firstly, to understand their role in all of this and the master's role, and then how you can work with the master who's initiated you, or if you're not initiated, how you can work with yourself to get to the point of initiation in order to see this for yourself. First, by intuitively changing, like your attitude changes all by itself. You start realizing, I'm not this way, I've changed for the better actually. So even before you see anything, you will change your attitude, your feelings to the world, and you'll also find that things start going a bit more smoothly for you. Once you surrender and give yourself to the master or to the Lord. Let the Lord take care of everything, which he's doing anyway. What you're doing is removing the ego out of it. The ego is the biggest barrier. The ego is the I, or home in Punjabi. And this I is the major barrier between you and truth. If you took the I away, then there's only he, or she, or it, whatever you want to say. Because in truth, only the Lord is. The Lord is the only doer. There is no other doer other than the Lord. And you are a projection of that. And then you project your own karma image in front. A projection and a projection. The idea is to withdraw the attention back to your true self first. Realize you're the one who's projecting all this. And then when that realization comes, they say, well, where do I come from? My origin. As a soul. Then you go back to your source. which is a Supreme Lord in Satgurus. So this journey down and journey back is unique to each and every one. The reason is because no two people are alike. Although souls are souls of the divine and they're equal from the standing from the Lord's point of view, each one has a slightly different viewpoint. Therefore, if I tell you my journey back home, how will it help you? That's why Babaji says and Masters say, don't talk about your personal experiences unless somebody's elevated to understand, because each one will have a slightly different experience according to the means in which they came in is the means they go back. No two are alike. So when they quote something in the books that you will see this sky and you will hear this sound, these are generalities. It's not necessarily fixed. It's not necessarily the case for everybody. Yeah? Everybody, you must trust your own experiences, not what the books are saying. Yeah? Okay.
Okay, next question.
Yes.
Does a perfect living master only see goodness in disciples no matter what karmic role we have to play, such as a criminal or a hard-working ordinary man, etc.? Is this because they see us as pure souls and pay no attention to the character we play?
Absolutely right. Because the masters are enlightened, meaning they know the truth of our origin and the origin of creation. Because of this, they know that every part has to be played. Let's say the Lord is the director of the play, and this is his play. He wants to see the play being played most perfectly. In fact, when you rise up to higher levels of awareness and you look at this creation, you say this is the most beautiful and perfect play. You could not find any fault with it. You will not change anything. Because you have that understanding from a wider awareness perspective of exactly why this play is being played this way. And you also realize that this creation is one of countless that has come and gone. So it's not the only one. So our very minuscule level of understanding to the focal point of a pinprick, that is our level of understanding at this stage. And we try to discern the entire existence and the masters, everything from that pinprick point of knowledge. It's not possible. But they tell you how to do it. So the process is go within, meditate. And then eventually meditation is left behind and you're just doing 24-hour contemplation. Because that is the truth. Not even meditation itself is a ceremony.
Thank you. I'm going to go on to talk about spirits and ghosts now.
Okay.
What is the difference between a ghost and a spirit, and why do some people see ghosts and others do not?
You see, ghosts refer to people or animals who have lived physically on this earth and died. And because they're so attached to this world that they haven't left their association with this for a little while, they come and we say they haunt. So these are ghosts which are temporary and they're passing and they're not permanent. Spirits are different. When people refer to spirits, they're talking about the angels and rakshas and the effects that they have in the sense of what some people connect with when they meditate or when they're a medium and so on, and they can connect with the lower astral plane. They connect with these spirits. So spirits are different because they're not part of this earth plane. They're actually in another dimension of existence, but you can connect with them through various means, whether you're a yogi, whether you're a medium, a psychic, whether you're a spiritual practitioner. But they don't haunt or they don't do anything like that. So that's the difference between spirits and ghosts.
So why do some people see ghosts and some people don't?
Because they have a karmic connection with that person. Everything here happens because of connection and karma. Nothing is random, nothing is accidental.
Okay. In the Indian Sikh culture, when someone has died, people say, you must wash with water if you have been to a funeral. Why do they say this? Do they feel the spirits might come back to you?
Actually, that's true. So you've got to understand that alongside spirituality, superstition exists as well. And unfortunately, even in religious and spiritual followers, I've even known some satsangs to do these things. The fear of being haunted by ghosts or some kind of evil or some kind of thing because they go into a death place and there's a fear associated with death, which shouldn't be there. We said some, they should welcome it to get out of here, but they still. So the idea was that if you bathed, and this was introduced by the Brahmins many, many centuries ago, that when you go to a funeral you must bathe because of the spirits and so on. And ever since then, in Indian tradition, whether it's Hindu, Punjabi, even Islam to a point, they believe in that washing away their spirits by having this bath or washing yourself. It's just a ritual. It has no basis of truth or founding in it at all.
And to be fair, some things do get passed down in culture and no one
questions it. Yeah, because it's part of the identity, part of their culture. Only a truth seeker, which are rare, only 10% of creation, would actually question such things. Others just go along with it, so which is what we do. I don't care why we do it, just do it. Because I want to belong somewhere.
Right, last question regarding ghosts and spirits. Where do disembodied spirits hang out? Are they at graveyards or elsewhere?
Well, disembodied souls, disembodied minds. Again, I've spoken about hauntings. It depends on where the association is with that individual in their former life and the place. So it may not be in a graveyard. People assume that ghosts are in the graveyard, but funnily, nobody's ever seen a ghost in the graveyard. Because normally the place of death is not the graveyard. Yeah? The place of death is normally somewhere else. When was the last time you said anybody say, I went to a graveyard and I saw a haunting? Actually, people don't say that. That's very interesting. It's a misunderstanding. But ordinary people will think that, oh, because there's a lot of dead bodies there, there must be ghosts and spirits there, so we're not going to go because it's a scary place. But you'll find that a much more peaceful place than some haunted houses. So they don't hang around, as said. They only hang around places that they were familiar with.
Thank you. I've got a question regarding the astral plane. It's quite long, so bear with me.
Okay.
Ishwar Puriji, in one of the discourses, mentioned time in the astral plane. In an example that he gave, if I remember correctly, he mentioned a meeting took place over a cup of tea there. The meeting lasted for about 5 minutes on that plane, and simultaneously many years have passed on the physical plane. Now, if someone visits the astral plane during meditation for 5 minutes, when the person awakens back on earth, will the person feel as if multiple years have passed here, or will the years have actually passed? Or will the person perceive those multiple years passing on earth only during those 5 minutes?
Okay. Actually, this is true because time operates differently in different dimensions. So, for example, here a unit of time is as we understand it, but in the astral plane it's 100 times slower. So if you spend 5 minutes there, it's 100 times longer here that has passed. However, depends what you mean when you say go there. Let's say you meditated. You're physically present here and you meditate there and you have 5 minutes cup of tea. Yeah? Does that mean you've aged here? By 500 times? No.
Because when you come back out of meditation, you're still who you are.
Because the level of reality that you're experiencing is unique to that level and they don't interact with each other. Otherwise, the astral realm could influence this and this could influence the astral realm. It doesn't work that way. When you enter dimensions of reality, the form you have in that reality is going along its own timeline of events. And that timeline is fixed. So it's not the question that you can go to the astral realm and go into the future, by going to the astral realm and then coming back here and it's 500, minutes later. It doesn't work that way.
Thank you. I've got a few questions around initiation. What are the implications of being initiated by 2 perfect living masters of the Sant Mat path on 2 separate occasions in the same lifetime?
You see, there are many reasons why somebody would be initiated more than once physically. Normally, there is a master, what we call master by proxy. Now, master by proxy will be the first master that initiates them, if they're going to have more than one initiation in this lifetime. And because there's a karmic connection with that master and the Sangha from the past, so that master initiates them and introduces them to the path and cleans them up a little. Then they're handed over to the following master, who's the one who may take them home, or maybe another master by proxy, because then they have to come back. You know, the list A and list B. List A are those ones who are going to go home in this lifetime, and list B, the larger group, are going to come back. So most people who are initiated by a perfect living master, even once or twice, that is not the master who's going to take them home. They will have to come back here and be initiated again, or if that is the master who's going to take them home, they will be maintained in the astral realm, and then that master will continue to supervise them from there. So masters come into the physical realm to initiate allocated souls for a particular time. When it becomes the final master, because adding to this question, let's say, how would you recognize whether the master who's initiated you is the one who's going to take you home, is the final one? It's a very simple answer. If you're pulled with unconditional love for that master, you cannot help thinking of them, missing them, loving them, and trusting them so completely above your own level of understanding that this one will definitely take you home. This is your last time. This master is going to take you home. If you don't have that level of connection with that master, but it's more of an intellectual one, like you like listening to discourses, or you like just going to have darshan with them, and so on, then perhaps they're not the one who's going to take you home, but they are a crucial part of your journey, in the sense that they are the one who's cleaning up the mind, educating you, and helping you along the road. But then you'll have to come back again and be handed over. So that is an absolute determining factor, the love and devotion part, which is why, you know, great masters say, meditate with love and devotion. If you cannot, you have to come back.
This next question, and the one after, kind of ties in with all this. Which master should initiates follow? If the master of the recent initiation has left his bodily form, should the previous living master be viewed as the master? And if yes, then why did the second initiation happen in the first place? No,
that's not correct. It's not the case that when a physical master leaves, that suddenly you revert back to a previous master, or you have to look for a new one. It's not that. Master is Shabad. Guru is Shabad. Shabad is Guru. The real form of the master is the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit within you, that manifests in the physical form. And it doesn't matter what form they take. In fact, there's only one master. Only, ever. It might have 100 bodies. Because the master is the Shabad. They represent the truth. But they manifest to different peoples at different times accordingly. Now let's say one particular character form of the master you're drawn to above others. It doesn't mean that if that master then dies, leaves the body, that suddenly you should revert back to. No. The master who initiated you most recent is the one who you should have the most following with, because that's the one who you've been handed over to them. If you choose to go and start devoting to the previous master, you can. There's not a problem. But you'll still have to be handed back to the other master. In fact, the other master is the one you'll see and when you go within, because although you're devoting, so it doesn't matter. But your understanding, just for understanding's sake, you shouldn't think that, because the current one is dead, let's go back to the previous one and see them as separate. That is a gross misunderstanding of the fact.
Thank you. This is the last one relating to all this. Will initiates from list B meet another master in this lifetime, especially when the initiate had a very brief and very few encounters with the master who initiated him, and therefore did not have enough practical knowledge about meditation? And it says this question is raised because the master in question has left his physical form.
It's not the question that because somebody's in list B, meaning they have to come back again, that they will necessarily have to be initiated here again. It depends on the pool. If they come across somebody who they feel is competent, who they feel an affinity with, a connection with, and they're drawn to, and that one is allowed to initiate, then they can ask initiation. It's not something that is not an intellectual exercise. Initiation comes soul to soul. The pull comes from within. It's not something you can intellectualize. Like, okay, now my master's passed, I've got to find another one. That's not the right way of thinking. Because this is a path of love and devotion. If you cannot gender that love and devotion within, you can be initiated by 1,000 masters. What difference is it going to make to you?
I think people are so attached to the physical form.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
They think the master is physical because they don't understand that the masters acquired a body for this journey, and the real form of the master is the Shabbat place, despite the back books telling them so. Despite all the satsangs telling them so, they still chase the physical master. It's a really strange thing. No matter how much you tell the truth, they can't hear it. Very strange.
Okay, thank you. I've got a few questions around meditation now. What is meant by the phrase, go within and you will find your answer? Is it in the peace and quiet that our soul will provide us with the answers, which are not available outside, as we are too caught up in worldly activities that are totally mind-based and hence distracting?
You see, the point of going within is to see who you really are. Know thyself as soul, as the literature says. What does that mean? It doesn't say know thyself as mind. Know thyself as soul. The real self is the soul. Now the mind projects itself here into this creation, and it forms a vehicle, a physical body, as a means to interact with physicalness. The physical body is not real because we know it returns to the dust. We see that all the time. It never permanently exists. The mind itself will eventually be dissolved. But your job in the physical form, if you're able to, is to connect with your true self within and not worry about the external manifestations that occur here, even your own character. What does it matter whether you're a king or a pauper or a beggar, a man or a woman? It has no bearing. This is a game of soul to soul. The masters are only interested in the true form of yourselves, not in the participant, not in the character you're playing in this current life. So there's no reality to the part you're playing here whatsoever. So, to know the truth of all this, if you go within and see this for yourself, rather than intellectualizing it, then it will make perfect sense. No amount of inquiry and intellect will ever give you that security of awareness that you seek. It's just an intellectual gymnastics, a game, and each one will say something slightly different relating to that point. But the ultimate is that any master that points you in a direction to go within and find the truth for yourself and not worship them in the physical forms. Masters never say worship the physical form. They never say bow down to me, touch my feet, worship me as an idol. No, they're very much against this because you're just worshipping another illusion. You're an illusion manifesting here for a time period, so is the physical master. If one illusion is worshipping another, what's the outcome? Illusion, not enlightenment. Yeah? Just like an unlit candle cannot light any other candles in the room, but one lit candle can enlighten all the others. So a room full of unlit candles all worshipping each other is going to get nowhere. There'll be no light in that room.
Thank you. Next question. I do not meditate regularly. Is that why my intuitive self is not working? Often I find myself struggling with the important decisions in my life and hence I make mistakes along the way. Is meditation the only way to help develop intuition, and are such mistakes meant to be?
Meditation is a great help. It's not the only way, because in fact, it's the Lord that gives you everything. Your token gesture of meditation is simply this. You're giving up the most valuable thing you have in this world, time. It is the only thing you can never take back. And masters know this. When you put your time into devotion, whether it's meditation, seva, contemplation of the Lord, and so on, this time gets credited to your account. They call it spiritual merit. And when there's enough spiritual merit, then grace is given as a reward. It's not money, it's grace. And this grace allows you to see things within, have certain things for you, set up for you, and so on. Life goes a lot smoother and so on. That's why masters say, get the credit in the bank before you try to spend it. You go and ask master and plead him, please master, help me and save me. Master says, okay, I'd love to save you, but let's have a look at your account. There's not enough credit there. I'd love to help you, but I can't in this case. I have to be fair to everybody. So do the best you can. I'll be there to support you, but I cannot help you in this case. But let's say the same person now asks master, please help me, give this, even if it's something that It's not appropriate for them. I want a red Ferrari in my driveway in the morning. Master says, okay, you've really sincerely asked for this. Let's have a look. You know, you have enough credit. You have enough spiritual merit. By hook or by crook, I'll get the Ferrari there for you. But a total waste of your credit. But, so this system of credits, spiritual credit, which only spirituality can give, no other means. You can be a good person here. You can do many good and kind acts. But if they're not spiritually related, meaning inquiring about the truth of creation in any of them, then these are good karma. And they'll give you a good life back again. But you have to come back. If you lived an average life, but you were very devout spiritually, and you put all your effort, attention with seeking the truth within, then you have a lot of merit in your account. So at the time of death, when Master greets you, then they give you two options. They say, okay, you have enough merit here. Now you can decide what to do next. Either you can stay with me here, and we can meditate and go a nice, gentle, happier, smoother, harmonious route in the astral realm, or you can come back for a short time into the physical world to clear off the remaining debt, but you'll be born in better circumstances and so on, be born to a satsangi family and so on, and you can finish the account and leave early. That's the choices you have. You see? So this is the option that a master gives you at the time of death. It's always the case that with your agreement, it's never Master imposing their will upon you either. This is a friendship. Master is first your friend, then your savior. If you cannot make them your friend, you cannot trust their ability to save you. Who would trust a stranger coming to save you? No. But if you have a good friend and they say, I'm going to help you, you trust them. So Masters are friend first, then savior and master later. Always this way. So when this friendship is met out to its ultimate there, you find that you and the master are on equal footing. In the radiant level, at the astral level, both of you are the same. Again, this is another misunderstanding that somehow master's radiant and you're not. No, everybody's radiant there. Even the floor, even the sky, the trees and the objects, everything radiates in the astral realm. But you have a special bond between this particular form, the master, and yourself. And you recognize that. And that is heightened in the astral realm. The trust is much more, let's say, deeper than can be experienced here. So once you see the master within and you come back here, your trust in the master is so complete that if the master says to you, abandon everything and follow me, you immediately do so without looking back. If the master says, I'm going to take you away from your successful business and put you as a pauper beggar in the street, you say, okay, sweet is thy will, O Lord. You have no qualms with it because you know that special relationship exists and it doesn't matter. Two things you know. One, there's no reality to this. It's all a projection. And second thing is, the only one you can depend on and trust in the illusion is the master. So you have undying love and devotion for the master. And these examples we hear through the poetry of the saints. The saints who have mastered this, when you read their poetry of love and devotion, these people have attained that state. They're describing what they see, what they experience. They don't need any books to tell them. They can write their own holy book. So this is a very important part, that this is a part of love and devotion, and that love is massively intensified in the astral realm.
Thank you. Is it ever possible to hear the sound current during the day, or does one's attention have to be fully withdrawn for this to happen?
No, once you have reached the sound current, once you connect with the sound current, you hear it even if you're not meditating. It's always there. It resides in the background. And depending on how well established your focus is within, determines how loud the sound is outside. But there gets to a point, you see, when you get to Parbrahm level, actually you no longer hear the sound. Only when you meditate, the sound is there, which is a natural reverberation of the soul. So the Shabad itself comes from your own soul, actually, initially. And the soul Shabad comes from Satgurus. So there's a connection, which is why masters say connect first with yourself, and which has a certain sound, and then you connect with the sound or the vibration or the resonance of the Lord. The books have tried to describe this in certain ways in Sant, not very accurately, but they give a hint that there is a sound and a resonance as you go within. Outside, you will only hear the sound up to the top of Brahman. Once you cross Brahman, then you don't hear the sound because love and devotion takes over. Instead, you have an intuitive connection with the master, because at Parbrahm is when you merge with the master. You and the master become one. So therefore, you have that pull of love and devotion, and no sound is needed.
Thank you. In the past, you have mentioned that the true height of Sant meditation is 24-hour holy contemplation on the high truth to oneself or one's holy master. If this is so, then why do most holy masters insist upon 2.5 meditation daily for spiritual progress, as in hours? Do masters meditate themselves, or do they simply contemplate 24/7 instead?
Well, as I've often said, contemplation, holy contemplation, is a helplessness of the individual to connect with their beloved. But this is difficult to do 24/7. Although great masters said, when asked this question as well, he said, yes, you should contemplate 24/7. How can you assign to your beloved merely 2.5 hours a day and then forget them the rest of the time? It's not possible. So masters historically devised this trick of keeping the mind occupied through Simran, through repetition of the holy names, and then when you have moments free, to see the effect of your spiritual progress as a measurement through meditation. By going within, two things happen. One, you're being elevated to a higher intuitive level of awareness that affects you here. And second thing is you can see where you're at. So meditation, or seeing in meditation, is just a guide, a measure. It itself doesn't give anything. In fact, meditation only operates up to Parbrahm. When you cross into Parbrahm, then something else takes over called awareness. Now, when you reach Parbrahm, meditation is no longer necessary. What instead you do is 24-hour contemplation, where you're constantly in love with the beloved and you can't stop thinking about them. Because only love and devotion is effective from Parbrahm onwards, not ritualistic meditation. Meditation is for the mind. Even Babaji recently confirmed this as well. Babaji is just for the mind, takes you up the top of Trikuti. Beyond Trikuti, it's love and devotion. So this is why contemplation is a higher state of meditation, because it does not require a ritualized format or ceremony of sitting in a certain position and a forced activity of withdrawing the attention. It's a natural phenomena, like a lover. If you ask any lover, try to think of your beloved. He said, I can't do anything else, I'm helpless. Similarly, contemplation is a helplessness of the disciple to think of their master and experience love. It's a completely different thing. Therefore, contemplation, or holy contemplation, is far superior to holy meditation.
Thank you.
And yes, to answer the question about masters don't meditate. They simply are in contemplation.
Okay, I've got a question regarding spiritual progress. Hazur Maharaj Charan Singh Ji said that spiritual progress is much quicker on the earth plane than in the astral or causal plane. Hence it is much better to meditate here. How is time calculated in the astral and causal planes compared to time on earth?
Well, to answer the first part, yes. Because the way humans are made in ignorance of the future, they do not know what's going to happen to them the next minute. Therefore, everything they do here is a great testing struggle of their ability to comply with something that's going to help them. So because of this, time here moves very slowly in comparison. But simply because it feels like an eternity every moment here, because of the struggle associated with it. So the struggle is there in order to hasten our spiritual progress. That's why we have to struggle here. Now, masters always say, look, if you want to do this a lot quicker, why not do it in the hardest plane, which is the physical plane, where you're struggling the most. because you're going to gain so much further by fighting against the struggle in reward than you would if you're having a nice cozy existence in the astral plane. So in the astral plane, everyone knows their existence already. So when people are born into the astral realm, their whole timeline adventure is shown before them. There's no mystery. Now they're simply going through it experientially, because simply knowing your timeline events doesn't mean you're experiencing it. So their level of existence is completely different. They know what's going to happen to them. They know every little thing that's going to happen to their end. The difference is that now they're undergoing the experience, and they say, oh, in 5 minutes it's going to happen, in 10 minutes it's going to happen. But the actual experience is what they're doing. It's a different way of living to us. Such a thing is strange to us here, but it's perfectly normal to them there. Now, because they know what is to come, then fear, concern, and all these other things are no longer relevant. So time runs a lot more slowly for them, because there's no challenge as such compared to here. So the system is made fair like that. Now, in the causal realm, it's quite different yet again, because in the causal realm, there's no form of anything. You can become anything. When you reach the Brahmandi stage, you are effectively the creator. Therefore, you can become the color purple, you can become a chair, you can become a triangle, and you can become the number 5, let's say. You can become anything you wish by mere thought. That is the level of thoughts. There is no fixed form, because you can become any form. Now, because you have so much mastery over, not only are you now following this timeline of events, you can actually play around with this timeline at that level. So therefore, time runs even more slowly there, much more than the astral realm, because the level of difficulty, the level of struggle there is so much less. So there's a rule about struggle, right, in all the planes, that according to the amount of struggle you have, time passes quicker, funnily enough. But interestingly, if you ask somebody here, when they're in dukkha, when they're in suffering, they say, oh, it's running really slowly. But when they're happy, time seems to pass fast. This is a perceptual thing, not in reality. The timeline here is, maybe 70, 80 years. But in the astral realm, your single form can exist for 3,000 years. And in the causal realm, 3 million years. Imagine how much the time runs differently for one lifetime in the astral realm, causal realm, and physical. That's why masters say, if you don't want to do 3 million years of meditation, why not do here in a few years?
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions around negative circumstances. Are there any countries that are more spiritual than others? There seem to be many countries at the moment with a lot of karma, judging by the atrocities and natural disasters.
Well, you see, just as we individually have karma, so do nations, and the earth, and the moon, and the sun, and the planets. These are part of our collective karma, but each one is undergoing its own evolution. So nations, for example, depending on the nature of the individuals, the attitude of the individuals existing there, will go through a certain type of karma. So on this basis, we say, oh, some nations are more spiritual than others. For example, India has been known for thousands of years to be spiritual. Why? Because everybody was vegetarian. People believed in non-violence generally. There was the occasional fighting between kings and kingdoms, but not greatly so. And most of them were based upon some sort of philosophical ideal. Spiritually, they still observed the rules of war. For example, honor was observed. There was no cruelty like we have today, with the way they kill innocent women, children, and raping and pillaging and destroying randomly. That wasn't done even then. So India has always been known as a spiritual nation. The karma of the country has been largely spiritual, and that's why most masters were present there, because the attitude of the people was spiritually orientated, down to the lowest level. So, and particularly there was no killing. Meat wasn't consumed. For thousands of years, alcohol generally wasn't consumed. Mind-altering drugs weren't part of the culture. All these things were taboo for thousands of years. So that allowed that nation to create so much good karma that saints were born there. How privileged were the people to have perfect saints in larger number than anywhere else, born there. It's not that saints weren't born anywhere else, but they're very, very rare outside of India for quite some time. However, things have started to change. India now is looking to the West for materialism and likes what it sees in the West and wants to adopt materialism as its new non-poverty stricken way of life. But what's happened is they're sacrificing their spirituality. So they're becoming rogue, let's say. So now spirituality is moving over to the West. The West now is starting to question materialism, commercialism, suffering, and so on. And over a period of time, during this century, the axis of spiritual power will move from India to the West, particularly in the UK and America. So they will become, for the next 900 years, the new spiritual center until it reverses back to the East. So, yeah, this is a karma of nations and karma of the collective people who are born in that particular nation that determines the fate of that nation, the outcome. Similarly, their attitude determines where saints will take birth next and where they will operate next. And that is changing to the West now.
Thank you. In 2021, you stated that dangerous and destructive people would be moved to a lesser planet of Earth. Can you kindly elaborate on this? Will it happen by 2030? And what percentage of people will this affect?
I think this one is quoting from an actual prediction of what's happening during the Great Revolution, the upheaval that I spoke about in a few years ago, before all these wars and disasters come, that during the 2020s will be a decade of disaster. And the reason why this is happening until the 2030s is because we've just entered Dwapara Yuga in 2012, so we're no longer in Kali Yuga. And as a spiritual era, there's a great shift changing in people. There's going to be two sides. One of those who are clinging to the past of warmongering, greed, selfishness, and so on, hatred, and so on. And then there's the new movement, which is towards spirituality, veganism, good consciousness, and so on. Now, this movement of people is changing over these next few years. But at the end of it, what will happen to the people who are no longer able to sustain, to live in this world when humanity becomes peaceful for 900 years? That's when I made the point that such disruptive souls who are still barbaric by nature will be then born in a next life in another planet, another humanoid planet less evolved.
But that planet doesn't exist at the moment? Or?
No, it does exist.
Okay.
There are stages of evolution. There are 30,000 planets alone, humanoid type planets in our galaxy alone. Yes.
Does this fit into what Supreme Master said recently in one of her talks about a few weeks ago, where she said 2027 is going to be a year of like worldwide calamity and lessening of the population and the possibilities.
Supreme Master exaggerated a little bit because the people that she's speaking to are quite corrupt and she wants to shock them. But yes, I've always said that from 2027 there'll be a great calamity, natural disasters, solar flares, a new pandemic, and things that will decimate human population, not kill them in the millions as you say, but it will disrupt our way of life so badly that people will start questioning what life is all about, what they should be doing here. And the nations are going to start coming together, cooperating rather than fighting. The idea is, in order to bring the 900 years of peace starting from 2055, there has to be a process leading up to this. And that is the Great Revolution. And that great human revolution will occur when people start rising up against governments, riots, instability, corruption. People want to move away from all these things and want truth and honesty. People are going to start going down that way. Compassion, truth and honesty, not ruled by greed and lies and so on. So humanity itself, as I said, is evolving. And as a result, it's moving towards this golden age that Supreme Master speaks about. But yes, I mean, 2027, the end of 2027 is a particularly difficult time for humanity. And even before that, there's going to be a lot of economic upheavals, a lot of problems with, say, China, India and Russia and so on, which we are experiencing as was written about in the book some years ago before the events took place. It's all unfolding exactly as written.
She said something about some kind of bioweapon.
Yeah, there's a lot of threats of this. Nothing will actually cause a death. Things will be tested and tried, but nothing will wipe out humanity. As she was saying, that will wipe out most humans on Earth. That's not strictly true.
Will it affect the UK much?
The UK will be very much affected by the economic situation that the Western countries are going through. Very much so, and obviously the new pandemic and the outage, the power outage of the solar flare and a couple of other things. Lots of exciting times ahead for us, hey? But spiritual practitioners have nothing to worry about.
She did say something about the people who are initiated are less likely to be affected.
Yeah, people who are truly spiritual practitioners, especially initiates, don't have too much to worry about. Yes, they will have to ride the storm, but generally they won't be so much affected. And those ones who are not initiated but are real true seekers, they will be protected too. It's not just the fact that only initiates will be saved. People who are seeking the truth, the Lord, Supreme Lord, does not judge initiate, non-initiate. Let's say they're initiates in the waiting. They're just waiting their turn, but they are true seekers.
I don't like the question, Master. Where's the logic in her spreading fear like that?
You have to understand the people that she's speaking to.
And what would they gain from that exaggeration?
Action. These people are very slow to act for their betterment. Sometimes you have to wield the stick as well as the carrot. Huh? Yeah, the Far Eastern people, yeah. She's based in Taiwan and she's speaking to her captive audience.
Oh, you mean because they're like robotic rigid?
They are like robots. Yes. And unless you shock a robot, yeah, you're not going to get much response out of it.
Because you notice in their audiences, they're very robotic, like,
yeah,
very like,
they are.
They all like respond in like
in unison, in uniform. Yeah, yeah. It's like saying applause on their yeah. It's the type of individual.
It's like China, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the way Chinese people are like kind of controlled.
Yeah, Asia, the Mongoloid race as a race, which are far older than Europeans, for example, they have evolved to the state of cold emotion control. They believe in emotion control to the extreme.
Just one last thing. She also mentioned something about a world war starting in the end of this year, November.
It's not so much going to be a world war, but there's going to be some difficulties associated with Russia, and particularly who takes over Russia after Putin. I don't want to go too much into that, but there are some difficulties arising out of the whole conflict thing, which has to be met out. But the end result will be that Russia will eventually join Europe.
So are we likely to get involved?
We're already involved.
Well, with troops and...
Let's just say things may escalate before they get better. Yeah. I don't want to start going down that long discussion. Let history take its course, eh?
Well, ultimately, it's for the good of the planet.
Eventually, it will be for the good because it will shake people into taking action. Sometimes you need the stick as well as the carrot to get things moving.
Hopefully, we'll put leaders off further war.
Yeah, things will change a lot. By the 2030s, you'll be surprised. By the early 2030s, you could say you'll definitely be seeing a different kind of world. And you would say it's approaching a better world after the great calamity of the 2020s, which is going to be insane for us. Yeah. So keep your head down, do your duty, you'll be fine. Yeah, all initiates, as I suggested. Don't worry about such things. Don't listen too much to such things. Because these are things that are not in your hands.
I noticed that about COVID. A lot of initiates, they all said that it didn't really affect them. They just went about their
No,
daily.
it didn't. It certainly didn't affect me. I didn't even get jabbed.
Really.
True.
Yeah, nothing affected me. I was exposed to it all. Nothing happened. And now my claims about it being a little bit fraudulent, the whole setup, has been proven. People are coming forward now and looking at taking certain companies and governments to court, but they have to have the money to do so, and it's not in anybody's interest. But people are standing up, including most recently a commissioner of police for the Metropolitan Police who stood up and named people in the cabinet who knew that the vaccine rollout program was false and it wasn't working, but for financial interest continued to let it roll out and cause a lot of suffering and difficulty for people. And now the side effects are coming to hospitals quite a lot with people with mysterious, unusual illnesses post-vaccination. So he's very brave to stand up and publicly not only present himself to show who he is and his credentials as high-ranking officer. And he said that the police force were fully aware of it, but they had no choice but to follow the government's rule. And also, he named and shamed people, which was quite a brave thing to do in government. And he said they're fully aware, and he even referenced the documents that exist, which are kept private. Let's see what happens with that. But all things come out in the end.
Was the vaccine rollout all just about money?
Yes,
more about
unfortunately.
population?
Unfortunately.
It's
That's
just about
why
money.
when it was wholly challenged by the doctors, the 103,000 medical staff and senior scientists and everything who were against the vaccination program, these are people who know the truth. They're not ordinary workers. The government suddenly did a U-turn overnight and cancelled the vaccination program, closed all the centres almost overnight. If you remember the Boris Johnson quote, after the famous surgeon threw down his scrubs in front of number 10 and made an allegation about the falseness, and then Pfizer were due to publish the 2-year study to show that the vaccination had failed program, that the testing they'd done, the guinea pig, had failed. This is a crime against humanity from the legal point of view, actually what the government's embarked in, and in the future it will be charged as crime against humanity.
This is where I don't understand why Babaji and Supreme Master encouraged the vaccine.
Because in order for Babaji to travel at the time, he had to follow the rules. But for satsangis, remember, people who are initiated by a perfect living master, the effects will be very small. But whatever their karma is, they still have to go through. Babaji, people misunderstand the masters. They're not here to go against the karma. They're here to follow the law. Like Jesus said, I have not come here to change the law. I have come here to follow the law and upkeep the law. So you'll never hear Babaji saying, no, I'm going to cancel the karma. He says, whatever your karma is, you have to live through. Has he ever said anything different? So if your karma means that you have to get jabbed, you're going to get jabbed. But Master did the example to show that it's okay for most people. They can get away with it, especially for initiates. And because he had to still suffer for himself, it caused him a backlash with his own cancer, that it resurged because of the vaccination. But he went through that for the Sangat. This is demonstrated, forget this physical life, yeah? This is the life, this is about your spiritual well-being. And it doesn't matter if your life is cut short. What do you care once you're initiated by a perfect living master? Your job is done. You have nothing left to do here. Even if you don't meditate, even if you don't do nothing spiritually, you're going home, albeit slower and with a lot more struggle. So Master said, you want to do this quickly, then meditate more. But you still have to go through the karma. And masters do not change the karmic law. They're not here to change anything here physically. They're here to pluck brands from the burning, as Jesus said. Get the hell out of here. Don't try to change this place so much. It will naturally evolve over time. So that's why Babaji complies with the law. Not because he was for it. Privately, he was against the vaccination program. But publicly, he was, okay, do it.
Just to play the game.
To play the game. Because otherwise the Indian authorities would not let people visit Dera. And there's many restrictions. He would not have been able to travel here to the West. At that time, he had to play the game. Even at his own expense.
They'll make things difficult for the Babaji as well when it comes to land and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of problems that the masters have to face. And they do this to show to us how we should deal with our own problems. Because if they were perfect in life, how could you look up to them? If they're a perfect being who has no troubles and no difficulties, never experiences any hardship, then you're going to say it was easy for you to preach to us, to suffer through it and go through it. You are having this rosy life.
You notice that Radha Swami, Dera Vyas, is highly respected in India, isn't it?
It is very much so.
Even Modi was there
Yes.
a few months ago.
Yes. And the reason for that is not because of spirituality. It's because Babaji, what people do not know, and the many people complain about his wealth and so on, he spends a lot, although he's a billionaire now, he spends a lot of his wealth supporting Indian government in the sense of green technology, his famous solar panels and other things, his farms, his soil renovation thing, many things that he does privately and building for the government. And when the Gujarat earthquake happened, he sent so many of his Sevadars, 6,000, to build 6,000 houses. And the government was so impressed by the speed of action and the houses going up that he came to thank Babaji personally. And that's how the relationship started. And ever since then, Babaji's paid from his own pocket, not the Dera funds, his own pocket, for many projects, including supporting women's rights, which he co-authored a book for women's rights in India. So he's involved in many humanitarian projects, but he never takes credit for it. He just does it behind the scenes, because he doesn't do it for the credit. But the government recognize what he's doing behind the scenes, that he's a great spiritual leader. And he's helped them out a lot without being politically affiliated to them. It's not that he's supporting the Modi government, as some suggest. It doesn't matter what government is there. He's supporting the people. What he's doing is for the people, not for the government.
He's just doing the right thing.
He's doing the right thing at the right time. Yeah. So he's leading by example. You know? But look, even then, he doesn't take the credit. Hardly anybody knows these things. What he's doing behind the scenes. They all say, oh, he's so rich, he has his own private jet, you know, he can fly around. I said, yeah, he should be giving everything. For what he's doing for humanity, saving the soul, you should give him everything. The whole world should be his domain. You should afford him every comfort you can possibly give. Because of what he's giving is beyond anything you can find here physically. I have no problem if he's a trillionaire. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. Because the trillion in his hands is going to be used far more wisely than in the hands of anybody else. Yeah. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's it on negative circumstances. Going to go on and talk about chakras.
Okay.
Is it wrong to open up the chakras for healing others? And if so, how are they harmful to us as spiritual practitioners?
You see, they're two different things. The energy centers of the body are to support the function of this body. Now, this body is a very mysterious design. In order for it to function as a human being that makes us different from the animals, we have these 6 centers or energy centers. And these energy centers is the way that when the life force, the consciousness that comes in us, generates particular effects on the body through various centers. So as this energy, much like electric cable goes into a machine, and the machine does different things. One energy source, but different things. So the body is like this, and each chakra is involved in a particular bodily process that runs this body that we take for granted. Science says that the heart pumps and it circulates and everything, but they don't understand how life works in the body. The next stage is consciousness, how consciousness activates within the body, and it uses centers of control. Now, the yogis in the past, particularly Adi Yogi, going back many thousands of years, 25,000 years ago, he was gifted because he came from Brahman. He was gifted with the ability of something called yoga, the ability to control these chakras through a certain type of yogic practice. Hence, yoga was born. And this yogic system was about managing the chakras, managing these energy centers, but none of it leads to enlightenment. The difference is you can get great powers, like you can manage your chakras to such a point you become superhuman, but you never become enlightened and you never become free from the karmic realms. Spirituality, meanwhile, because it's a withdrawal of attention within, and the higher chakras, the greater chakras within, then those 12 chakras, inner chakras that occur, they are spiritually awakening and awareness chakras. So they require a completely different method to approach them than it does to activate the physical chakras. So it's not that they're connected at all. Yeah, the physical mechanics of the body works one way, and the spiritual chakras works another.
I think most people are just used to the basic chakras, you know, the solar plexus and what have you.
Yes, up to the third eye. But they don't know about the other 6 chakras, the 12 chakras within, which are within the spiritual bodies of you when you go within and you meditate. Because each realm you go to, you meditate from there to progress to the next one. Up to Trikuti. After Trikuti is a different state. Yeah.
Okay. So they're not harmful then?
It's a waste of time for a spiritual practitioner. Why would you want to bother energizing the system which is already working and opening up chakras and then you have to close them down? Because when you withdraw the attention, you have to bypass all the chakras. Now, if you've activated a chakra, you've opened it, you're going to be stuck there. You won't be able to cross it. Yeah. So masters say, don't do this. That's why they're against all this healing and spiritual energy things and so on. They say, look, just get to the eye center, get the hell out of this place.
Which goes on to my next question. Why are some people drawn to these things like yoga, chakra healing, or meditations?
Because they associate with the body. If you associate yourself only with the body, then you want to do everything to upkeep this body or make it even supernatural. Because they don't know anything else. They're innocent.
Right, I've got a personal question for you.
Okay.
Do you think you would like to come back again for another experience in this creation or another creation? Or would you opt out next time if you were given the choice?
Well, firstly, I have to say that I will go wherever Master sends me. I've completely surrendered myself to the Lord. I do not consider myself separately acting. Therefore, this I reference is only for the physical, so you people can identify with this physical. So if I answer that question truthfully, I don't care where I'm sent next. Wherever the Master sends me and I can do the bidding of the Lord, that is my abode.
Thank you. I've got 3 random questions, so if anyone's got any questions, get them ready. How can we separate our true self from the temporary character we are playing in life whilst living in this world?
You see, Masters have prescribed, Sant has prescribed the means, which is what this whole idea is about, that we're teaching of true spirituality. The means by which we can withdraw our attention to see our higher self. Unless we see ourselves in higher truth, how can we know? It'll always remain a mystery to us. So there is a practice that allows us to separate the soul from the character. The character we're playing in this lifetime, we understand is physical. Even the character has layers to it. So for example, the character we're playing here physically is a direct copy of the character we're playing in the astral realm. So our real form is from the astral realm and is projected down here to make a physical form, so we can have this thing called karma acted out, and we have this drama. These are levels of drama. And in the causal realm, thought reigns supreme. Only thought exists there. There's no form, there's no sense perceptions, and there's no physical, nothing, only the thought. So your thoughts create reality there. So these are all part of the character we are playing at each level. Now meditation, or holy meditation, Shura Shabd Yoga, which is connecting with the Shabad that comes from the soul. The Shabad does not come from the mind. The Shabad comes from the soul. So when you do this Shabad of the yoga of the Shabad, then this Shabad pulls you to beyond the level of the mind. So this is why Sant teaches this particular method to allow us to know the truth and to escape the trap of karmic realms. This is the only means in this particular creation by which we can escape the trap.
Thank you. Do crystals really have benefits? If so, how should we best use them, and which ones are the most beneficial to us?
Well, I'm not going to go into details of crystal healing, but certainly all the elements of this earth has some medicinal, or let's say healing properties if we know how to use them. Crystals are no exception. Crystals are just concentration of minerals which have a certain energy, a resonance, or a field associated with them. We call it energetics, and when used in a certain way can help the physical body. They are absolutely nothing to do with spirituality, although Westerners, as usual, take something from the East and turn it to something spiritual and try to do spiritual things with crystals. They're not spiritual, they're purely physical. And they definitely, if used with knowledge, right knowledge in the right way, they can help with the healing of the physical body and with improvements generally in one's well-being. But there's nothing spiritual about them, it is purely healing.
Are you aware of one crystal that's quite good?
I'm not going to start recommending crystals, because on my recommendation 100,000 people will start buying this crystal.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not. Just, I think for an initiate who's a seeker, they shouldn't bother with these things. If they want to really, then they can research. There's so many books, videos on the subject. They can follow somebody, who's a healer and so on. But, I'm not here to promote that.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, last question. How do we heal ourselves when we are facing a loss of a loved one or a very stressful situation?
You see, knowledge is the best healer, real knowledge. Once somebody has true knowledge, then things are put in perspective. We have an association with the physical body, and we have such an association, we take it to be real. So when, and in fact the only reality, so when somebody departs, we grieve for them, because we think that they're lost to us permanently, because they don't understand the cycle of transmigration, of births and deaths. So depending on their circumstances, whatever it is, whatever philosophy they follow, that should be appealed to them. Use their philosophy to support their belief system, to support whatever grieving process they're going through, but also explain to them that it's okay to grieve, because that's the way for you, you know, and try to make it as comfortable for them as possible. So you should always try to, rather than try to, I don't know, indoctrinate them with something. It's not the right time. The grieving process is such. Regarding dealing with suffering, the easiest way is to get out of here. If you put your trust and faith in the Lord and live in the Lord's will, then what suffering can affect you? Everything is in the hands of the Lord, and the Lord will smooth your path. Like Guru Nanak said, you only pay 10% of the karma when you surrender to the will of the Lord. That's why I always say, live in the will of the Lord with trust and faith, and see how your life pans out just for 7 days. If you start realizing that my life is improved in the 7 days, then you might think, oh, but maybe this is a fluke. Let me try another 7 days. I said, try another 7 days and see how that pans out. And when that occurs as well, nicely and ticking on well, then you start thinking to yourself, maybe there's something to this. But just in case, let me try again. Let me try another 7 days. And you'll find similarly, it doesn't let you down. Life definitely runs more smoothly when you put your faith and trust in the Lord completely and don't instigate anything or attach yourself to anything or desire anything. Just go with the flow. Just literally, whatever comes your way, deal with it. React accordingly with the principles in mind, the noble moral principles. That's it. But most importantly, put your faith and trust in the Supreme Lord or the Holy Master if you're initiated. And let's see what happens. Test it for yourself. You'll soon find it will not let you down. You will let yourself down. The Lord will not let you down.
You're right about you will let yourself down, because you end up getting caught up in worldly things.
Yeah.
And then,
Because it's a practice. For so many generations of lifetimes, you've been projecting yourself outside into the world. It's not so easy to withdraw your attention and have total faith in some mysterious power, just based on a little bit of intuition. This is why meditation helps so much, because meditation generates that intuitive process within you that allows you to become more trusting and faithful to the Master. And then you put it to the test, because Sampat is a living faith. It is not a religion. It is not a blind faith. This is a living faith. And what we mean by that is you see evidence of the faith. And when asked how to produce this evidence, live in the Lord's will. Let's see how your life pans out when you totally let yourself go in the Lord's will, go with the flow, as opposed to when you take charge. Let's see the difference. Then you have proof. The proof that the greater power is in control, not you. So as you lend yourself more and more to this power in trust and faith, so it helps you evermore. And this is a living faith. When somebody says to you, do you believe this? Say, no, I know it works because I've tested it. But when it comes to the religions, it is blind faith. They say to you, do all these things, rituals and ceremony, and fingers crossed, when you die, you'll go to some heaven or some paradise. Who's ever come back to let us know they made it? There's no evidence. So this is a living faith. It's tested while you're here. And that's the thing about Sampat. That's what makes it unique to other faiths, because you can actually see things while you're still living in a body, not based on blind faith.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone got any questions?
Yes.
There's some old videos of Maharaj Charan Singh where he's in a hall where people are asking for initiation, and within like a split second he'll say yes or no, like nod his head or agree. What's happening in that split moment that allows him to make that decision in a second?
Let me tell you something even more. Before he came and sat in that audience, he already knew. The groundwork was already done. The mere fact that he gives credit to the disciple for asking and he's saying yes is just for the show. before this came, already the communication with the soul from birth was that at this time that soul would make that inquiry and master would grant that inquiry. So now the play has been written, the script has been written. So master sits there, he plays the master, the soul is the inquirer, and asks the question and master does it. Now you as the listener thinking, oh, that's quite interesting. He so quickly made this assumption. He didn't make it so quickly. The masters are all knowing. Yeah, they have instant knowledge. It's not a question that they have to consult. They say, hold on, let me just consult something. They don't have to consult anything.
I always thought that they're looking for the mark.
The mark is already placed from birth.
So when they say no, that means no communication has happened.
What do you mean no communication?
So when he says yes, that communication has already happened, like you say, at a higher level.
Yes. The decision has been made.
When they're saying no, that means there's no communication.
That's right, there's no decision made. There's no interaction. Because that master is not necessarily going to be their master. It doesn't mean that nobody else is marked for them. It's just that that master knows that person is not on their list. It's not a judgment. Masters never judge. This is another problem, that when somebody is seeking initiation and they get rejected and they feel really bad about it, other people look down upon them, why should this be the case? It's not that the mere fact that they've stood in the presence of a perfect living master, had darshan, and even asked for initiation, guarantees their initiation. Whether it's this one or the next. Why does anybody look? This is a very human way of looking at things, not the masters. Yeah, the masters treat everybody equally. They see everybody equal, all beloved sons and daughters. So, but they know who is marked for them and who isn't. It's a practical thing.
So there's no actual mark.
It's not that they don't carry a mark as such, like a physical marking, and the master looks, like somebody actually asked me this once, is there some like a cross on their forehead and said this one is to be initiated? No, it's not like that.
No, I mean like an inner mark.
The marking is the association between the master and the disciple long before. In fact, it goes back right to the time when they all came here, when master and disciple were first conceived in Satgurus. If you want to take it back that far.
It goes that far.
Yes. It's already decided, a particular timeline, a point that master, that person will meet, their last initiation, so it will happen. It's a whole show.
Before we left Satgurus.
Before we left Satgurus even.
The
deal was already made. That's why we left. We were going to be saved anyway. So what fear has the soul got?
So the master said, I'll see you in this lifetime, in this year.
Yes, the soul knows everything. The soul itself knows absolutely everything from Parbrahm. It's only when it acquires the mind and shuts itself down, goes into sleep, to allow the mind to take over, willing suspension of disbelief, in the sense that it believes the illusion so that it can have fun with it. Once it's time to cast off the illusion, then the soul is awakened by the spiritual grace of a master and by the marking, so to speak, as you say. It's a spiritual awakening rather than the marking. And then the soul and the master at some point meet and have this little connection, you see. But all of this is predetermined.
Right. The question is, like Baba Sahib Singh used to say, the mind is an agent of God.
Yes.
And so the mind's job is to stop you progressing, isn't it?
It has many jobs. One of them is to stop you progressing. The mind's job is to carry out the drama that you have subscribed to. Now that drama involves you staying in the play. Remember, as the antagonist, the story is between the mind and the soul. Yeah, so you have the protagonist, the soul, and the antagonist, the mind, and they're both interacting. Let's say villain and saint. Okay, the soul is the saint, and the villain is the mind. And now they have to play this battle out in the case of a drama here for a while, many millions of years. This interplay is going on until the point that the soul is pulled by the Lord itself. Now, the mind can never win this game because mind operates within a time frame. It has a timeline of existence. When it's finished, kaput. So, how the mind can never win, but nevertheless, Carl, his obedience to his Lord and Master is absolute. If we were half as obedient to our master as Karl is to his, then, you know, he'd be a great example. So people see Karl as a demon, as a negative. He's not actually.
He's playing a role.
He's playing a role by the Lord. By the Lord's grace, he's been placed here to play out a drama. Because there'll be no drama without the hero and the villain being in place.
So is it called, so Karl is aware when you get initiated?
Yes.
So at the moment of initiation, he's been told, or he's aware that someone
He becomes aware.
realm.
He doesn't need to be told. The mind who he's gifted to you in order to play the character is fully aware that he's been initiated. The mind is the agent of Karl.
So does it start?
And the
from
soul
there?
is the agent of the Lord.
So does the antagonism start from there?
No, it starts from the beginning, the moment you come into the creation.
But does it intensify when you're initiated?
Yes, it can greatly intensify. Because remember, because the Sinchit karmas have been largely barriered, removed by the master, you have to pay all the karmas off in one lifetime as best, or maybe more. So whereas when you're not initiated, you have plenty of time to space out the karma. So you have this smoother ride. When you get initiated, all hell breaks loose. Because in order to get you back within 4 lifetimes, all this account has to be cleared in just 4 lifetimes.
So when one gets initiated and one breaks the rules, let's say, is that Karl and is that mind?
Yes, it's the mind doing it.
The mind saying, yeah, do
Yes,
this, do
the
that.
mind is not done yet.
They want to slow
The mind still has some mileage in it.
So the mind
and wants to assert his authority.
The mind wants to slow the progress.
Yeah, it definitely slows the progress. It just means that they may take longer to get there. But there are no failures in Satmat, as Satguru Maharaj used to say. Everybody will get there in the end, by hook or by crook. Either the easy way or the hard way. They can choose that. They can see how that's panning out for them. Some people definitely want the easy way out. So they take to meditation like a duck to water. And they follow the master. They're really spiritually, where they're really what we call the goody-goodies, you know, of Satmat, you know. But master doesn't love them any more than he loves the naughty ones. The master doesn't distinguish. He just sees his sangat being played according to the plan. And he loves them equally. Yeah? He just helps. He gives more help and support naturally to the one who's struggling because they need it more. So they may be given positions in the sangat higher up near him. And Babaji often says this, that when people complain about those who are so fortunate to be around Babaji all the time, he says, how do you know they don't need me more than you do? Because they're more naughty. So yes, Babaji keeps those troublesome ones closest to him because that's where they can do less mischief. It's not the case that somebody who's put aside, let's say, and has hardly any contact with the master is any less. Master is shoved within each and every one of us, not physical. So therefore, master operates within us individually. Yeah, we don't have to physically see him. He operates within us. All we have to do is connect our attention, think of him. The mere remembrance and contemplation with gratitude, love and devotion immediately wins master attention, even if you have no opportunity to see him because your karma of the physical body doesn't allow you. Don't worry what the physical is doing. You place your attention, your attitude here at the eye center, and you start becoming a lover of your beloved master, and all will be solved.
Is there a reason why the radiant form is where it is in terms of what stage it's on? Like the radiant form is in the astral.
The radiant form is the first form of spirituality. How can it be physical?
No, what I'm saying.
The physical form of the master is here already.
Right.
You don't need a radiant form physically as well. They'll confuse things. So masters exist just like we do at all levels of creation. So the master has a radiant physical form, a radiant form, the astral form, the causal form, then the form in Parbrahm, the soul form, then the collective soul forms, and then such come. Like you, the master exists at all levels. So you associate with them in all levels. It's not a question that just the radiant form. It's just that the radiant form is the first level beyond the physical that will encounter a master.
So, you know how it's said that the journey starts when you see the radiant form? The journey really starts from here, doesn't it? Because
It depends what you mean by the journey starts. when we talk about true spirituality, awareness, when you start becoming more aware, then that definitely happens at the radiant form level. Because up until then, it's just a concept. You're just playing with concepts here physically. They're ideas, they're fantasies, they're fairy tales, yeah? But if you reach the astral form, then that becomes a reality. So that's why they say that the Sant Mat, or the real journey, begins in the astral realm, simply because that's the first level of actual knowing that you will experience. Up until then, it's mere intellectual gameplay. However, obviously spirituality for the individual actually begins in its gross form when you're initiating. So it depends what you mean by when does it start, what you're referring to. That's why sometimes the books are confusing like this, because they don't have the ability on written pages to give a long drawn out explanation of what is meant by this. Because the people who wrote the books often were quite familiar with Sant Mat and so on, and they wrote it as if they didn't write it for the ignorant ones, they wrote it for those ones who should know, and they think they know at their level, which can be confusing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
That's it, we're all done. Anyway, I think we've earned our lunch today. It's been a long session. So, thank you for attending, and Master's blessings to you all.
So dehi paje har ki sev bhajo gobind phul mat ja मानस जानम का एही ला